Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. Let's have a conversation. Oh, yeah. Look. Yeah. Hey. Let's have a conversation. Woo. Pick up some gems, life is all you make. Go. We keep it real, we don't talk to fake. Tell them hottest talk show on the net, coming for all the majors. Let's have a conversation. Woo. Pick up some gems, life is all you make. Go. We keep it real, we don't talk to fake. Tell them hottest talk show on the net, coming for all the majors. I think it's time to have a conversation. Let's talk about it. I think it's time to have a conversation. Let's talk about it.
Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Biggs, CEO of My Best Everyday Coaching and Consulting, and the host of Real Conversations with Michelle. Welcome to this very special episode of Real Conversations, which is dedicated in recognition of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. The title of this episode is Men's Mental Health Unmasked, the Silent Struggle. And y'all, I know that I'm seeing here that this is not going live on my business page. So let me see if I can make that happen. And if not, what I'll do is I'm going to put the link for the my personal page on the Facebook page, or you can actually go into the personal link or view it from YouTube. I apologize. I don't know what happened, but I see it's not going live there. But we'll see if we can get that going in a minute. In the meantime, let me introduce my very special guest. And when I thought about this topic, he was the perfect person for me for this particular topic because of what he does in the community and hearing some of his story around his personal journey dealing with mental health. So let me introduce to you, and I'm going to have him talk a little bit about himself, Mr. Blaise Harris, also known as the Dope Black Therapist. Blaise.
Hey, how you doing, Michelle?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well.
Good.
I'm really glad to be here.
Good. I'm glad to have you here. Of course, like I said, there's always something happening. So let me see if I can at least get, because I know the link for my personal page. It can be viewed.
Mm-hmm.
It is a public link, so people can view it.
Yeah. You're live on Facebook.
Go to my business page. Yeah, I'm live on the personal page, but the business page, it didn't come up. So let me try to get there. In the meantime, y'all, if you know someone who wants to join, please tell them to go into the link that says it's for my personal page, because that is a public link. Mm-hmm. So if you know someone, just have them go there. I am actually, y'all, going to be transitioning. I was telling Blaise this earlier. I'm going to be transitioning from StreamYard for a lot of different reasons, but you will be able to view this from the link for the personal Facebook page. So I'm going to post that link again here so people can do that. Blaise, in the meantime, introduce yourself. Tell people about you.
All right. What's going on, everybody? My name is Blaise Harris, also known as the Dope Black Therapist. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I am an EMDR certified therapist, speaker, author, educator, former firefighter, single father, survivor. That's who I am. And, someone who has battled with his own mental illnesses. I think a lot of people think that, men aren't supposed to deal with anything, or men aren't supposed to struggle. We just find a way to keep it going regardless of what's happening. But the reality is we do have these things that keep us from moving forward. It's just a lot of times we just tend to keep them to ourselves. And so what I do as a therapist is I teach. My niche is Black men and first responders. And my goal is to help everybody that I see to not only acknowledge their feelings but to process them, so what they're dealing with won't keep them stuck. You know,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
want to keep them stuck.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If I think about just what has society tells us how men are supposed to act, react, and things like that, right? A lot of times, those what we call the societal norms can prevent men from really dealing with the issues that they really need to deal with in a way that's going to be beneficial to them. So you're not going to be talking about a couple of different things.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about what inspired you to become a therapist and sparked your interest for helping men in this mental health space.
Yeah. So to be completely upfront and transparent, my divorce really messed me up. You know, going through my divorce, it really broke me down to the lowest that I've ever been. You know, going through depression and just like not feeling like myself. Like normally you see me, I'm like, hey, then I'm smiling and I'm happy-go-lucky and I'm dealing with everything and I'm taking life as it comes. But going through that, it really broke me down to a place that I never thought that I could go. You know, it was one of those things where, you know, I was losing weight without trying to work out. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I didn't want to be around people. I was irritable all the time. I was just like in a constant state of sadness. And it was just so much darkness just surrounding me. And it was one of those things where it's just like I was hurting so bad. And I didn't know what to do to get better. Because the thing about it is like, you know, we can be happy. We know what to do when we're happy. It's like we can be angry, but we can't be too angry. But sadness, what am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do as a man and I'm sad, especially a black dude? I'm not supposed to let stuff bother me. I'm supposed to just keep on going. I'm supposed to keep on pushing. But during that time, I couldn't. It was enough for me to get up and brush my teeth some days.
Yeah.
It was.
And it's funny because I think most of us who've come into this helping space, we've had something that pushed us into that space. And it's funny you said divorce, because divorce is what pushed me into getting certified as a coach. Worked in HR, for those who are following me for the first time. Worked in HR 37 years, strategic HR, done a little bit of everything in that space. But I was really pulled towards the life coaching space, and I decided to get some help. And oftentimes, those of us who are viewed as being strong, we don't show. We're afraid to show emotion, right? Because we don't want people seeing us in a very vulnerable state.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
And for you, because you talk about the work that you were doing.
Oh,
becoming a therapist.
So I was a firefighter. I was a firefighter for 14 years. I spent 11 in Raleigh as a senior firefighter, and I spent 3 years in Rocky Mount as a fire and life safety educator. And so the culture as a first responder is you're not supposed to let stuff that you see and deal with bother you. You know, you're supposed to, because you might see something worse like 5 minutes down the road, and you're already working a stressful schedule. You know, 24-hour shifts. Sometimes 48-hour shifts, depending on what department that you're in. And you might see your fair share of stuff that is just like extremely difficult for you to manage. Now, I've seen my fair share of bad things. I've seen my fair share of dead bodies, and my fair share of things that still stick with me that I see today, even years later. However, it was the divorce that really messed it up for me, because I was trying to keep home at home. And it was difficult to keep home at home, because that's the thing. It's like as soon as you cross through the threshold of the fire station or the police station or EMS station, whatever you're dealing with at work, at home, it's supposed to shut down. It's supposed to just like disappear as soon as you clear the door. And everything that you see at work is supposed to disappear. You're not supposed to take it home. It's not very realistic when you're going through like divorce or dealing with somebody who's battling cancer, you're dealing with someone who's pregnant at home, or you're dealing with a loss. You know, you can't just shut that stuff off. But for some reason, we as first responders learn how to compartmentalize. We know how to push this stuff to the side because we got to keep it going.
Right.
And so that's what I did. Being at work was the best thing for me. Because when I was at work, I didn't have to worry about what was going on at home.
Right.
I knew when that buzzer went off, I was going to be on that truck. I was going to go help somebody, and my mind was on helping them.
Right.
It won't on what was going on with me.
Right.
You know, but then home started to creep in, and it was just like, because I told you, dealing with depression, like I was in that constant state of sadness, and I would cry for no reason. And it was just like sit there, and it's just like I would hear a certain song or see a certain thing, and dealing with that, and I just have to excuse myself. And what was dope was, and because I was in grad school at the same time, and I was trying to take the promotional test for lieutenant. So I was studying. They knew I was studying. So when I was feeling those depressive moods come on, hey, I need to go study. Is it okay if I go to the other side?
Right.
And nobody would ever question it.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever question it. So I was hiding it. I was hiding it. Hiding it so well. Nobody had a clue. But then it got to a point where it was too much for me. And I started having suicidal ideations. And that was one of those things that it's like they started becoming frequent, more and more frequent. And one day the pain got to be too much. And I couldn't I just wanted the pain to end. And so what I did was, and this is like, you know, for those watching, this is about to get a little graphic. So just be mindful. So I went and got the biggest knife that I had in the kitchen, and I started to cut. And I was like, I finally feel something, because everything was like shut off. Everything was just like, it was just gone. You know what I'm saying? And I finally felt something for a change.
Right.
And I kept doing this, like I was finally getting that release.
Yeah.
And then the deeper I went, like that fight, flight, or freeze kid is like, oh, whoa. What you doing? What you doing? What you doing?
Praise God for that.
Doing?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I have to call somebody, I have to do something. So I didn't know, like, one, where am I going to find a therapist? I didn't know who to call. I didn't even know where to look to trying to find a therapist, So, but what I did was I knew about the psychiatric facility. I admitted myself to Holly Hill.
Okay.
So I admitted that's the only thing that I knew about. That's,
right.
In my mind.
And was that because of the work you were doing at the time? Was that first in mind?
Well, Holly Hill is a place that I always heard of, even since as a kid, because that's where. Okay. And no offense is meant by this, but that's where crazy people went. And in that moment, because I was doing that, I felt like I was crazy, in quotes, right? And so I admitted myself, and I'm going in there, and I'm thinking, it's like, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna see people in straight jackets, and I'm gonna see people bouncing off the walls and all this type of stuff. And I walk in, and I see people who look like you, people who look like me, people who look like the guy in the street, people who look like the store. There were business owners in there. There were people who were just having really tough times, and they were trying to work through their stuff. And I learned then that I had major depressive disorder. And I was just like, what's that? I was like, what is that? And it was just like, well, major depressive disorder is like, you're this constant sadness, you're feeling this irritability, you're not eating, you're not sleeping. You're sad all the time. You have this lack of pleasure in the things. You don't find any joy in anything anymore. You have suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideations, and this is a consistent thing going on at least for 2 weeks. And it was just one of those things. It's like, yep, that's all. I got all of that. But what am I supposed to do about it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like you're in that situation as you describe it. That is someone who is at their wit's end and just feel like there's just no way out. Right. And there's people who are in that space, and there are people who are in the middle of that space, right?
Absolutely.
They're wanting to do something, may not know where to go. At what point did therapy come into play for you?
So there was group therapy while I was in there.
Okay.
And that was one of the things, like, I didn't know. I thought I was going to be in there. It's like, what's going on? And I'm sitting with a group of people, and they're talking about, we had I'll never forget it. We were doing this activity, and it was a mask, and it was just like, okay, so what is the mask that you want people to see? So the mask I want people to see was all smiling and everything. It had hearts and all kinds of things behind it. They said, now draw what's behind the mask what people don't see. And it was a lot of cuts and jagged edges and anger and sadness and crying and all this type of stuff. But when we started talking about it, the floodgates like opened up because people were listening to me and not judging me because they understood where I was coming from. And that started opening the doors just like to what therapy can look like. Because, once I was released, I found a therapist. I went through a couple,
Okay.
And that's the thing.
Which is something we need to tell people,
Yeah.
going to therapy is like, you got to find the right match. I mean, the first person may not be the right person for you. Just like when you go to a doctor, you go to the dentist, if you need to change up, change.
I'm gonna even break it down simpler than that though, Michelle.
Okay.
It's like you think about people who are like who are sneakerheads or everything, right?
Right.
Like when they buy sneakers, do they buy the first pair that they get, or do they try on a couple of pair?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they try on a couple of pair. They'll tell you the same thing when it comes to jeans, shirts, and all of this type of stuff. You try a different pair. Every time I'll try on a different thing. So it's the same thing when it comes to therapy. If you can try it out, and if you don't like it, you can go to a different therapist and figure out what's what. I always tell people to find 2 or 3 therapists that they are interested in. If they offer a free consultation, do a consultation with all 3 of them. Ask all of the questions that you want to ask within that 15 minutes. That you can. Figure out what their background is. Figure out what their approach is. Ask them questions about that's going to help you to work through your stuff.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I do. I offer free 15-minute consultation to anybody who wants to talk to me. And
I do the same thing just for regular coaching. I tell people, you have to find the right match for you, personality, style, whatever, all the gamut, right? Because this is a person you're going to be meeting with, not just one session. They're going to help you get through some stuff. So, so you want one who's going to hold you accountable.
Exactly.
And but someone who's also going to be understanding and just kind of meet you where you are, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And let me just make another statement for people who are coming in late. If you go to my Facebook business page and try to go into the link and watch this from my Facebook business page, you may not be able to do that, my business page. But the link to the personal Facebook event post is public. So go there or go to the YouTube channel. If you know somebody who's trying to get in, have them go to my YouTube channel or my website. They can watch it from my website as well. But thank you. And I found this, I posted this infographic from NAMI, the National Association of Mental Illness. And I love this post that they have shared in support of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's like men need to know it's okay to feel insecure, to talk about feelings, to need support, to ask for help, to have bad days, to cry, to break down, to go to therapy, to feel weak, to not be okay, to feel and to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And when you hear those things, it's all those things that a lot of our men are taught that you're not a man if you do that.
Yep.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that.
So that's the thing. Our job is to be providers, right? That's it. We provide. No, nothing's ever supposed to bother us. We're supposed to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders and still make a way for it to happen. We're not supposed to feel anything. Our role is to be strong. Our role, we're supposed to be 10 feet tall and bulletproof at all times. And it's just like, it's one of those things. A lot of that stuff is the culture of men in general. Men are supposed, this is the man's role. The man is supposed to be protector and provider. That's it.
Right.
If you protecting and providing, you're going to get cuts, you're going to get scars, you're going to get scrapes, you're going to do all of this type of stuff, but you are still supposed to provide.
Right.
But the thing about it is, like, who is looking out for you when it's too much, and it's like, you think about even a lot of the stuff as far as Black men go, a lot of the stuff that we deal with is epigenetic, because that's passed down from slavery, from generation to generation to generation. Like you think about it, you're supposed to work hard. You're supposed to be strong all the time. This is other things, like this John Henryism. You know what I mean? So you're supposed to be like John Henry and just work and work and work and work until you die. That's it. That's it. And I can't show weakness, because like you think about it, if I'm working in the field, and the overseer sees that I'm slacking, what's going to happen to me? You know what I mean? I can be sold, I could be killed, or I will be separated from my family doing whatever. So let me stay strong. Let me do this. Let me work all of this type of stuff. Let me do all these things. And it's just like, let me be this, because this is my role. You know what I mean?
And I have to believe that is one of the reasons why so many men suffer in silence. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not supposed to. But the thing about it is just like, I don't want to be seen as weak. But then it's just like, but then if I am vulnerable, let's say if a man comes and tells you that he's having a tough time and he just wants to talk, if I express any type of emotion, then I'm sassy and I'm zesty, because for having feelings. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like all these things is like, what? But then you wonder why. Oh, well, I want a man who could communicate. He'll never communicate with me. Well, I try to communicate with you and you call me sassy.
Right.
I'm trying to tell you that I'm having a tough. Why don't you ever open up to me? Because when I open up to you, I can't be vulnerable to you because you call me zesty.
Right.
And it's one of these things. It's like, I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable in the space to be able to show you those things. So I don't. And like, who cares about us? You look at what's the least celebrated holiday?
What holiday, Blaise?
Father's Day. Father's Day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just one of those things, like, nobody don't care about us.
Yeah. We care about you. Some of us do. Some of us
Right.
do. Yeah.
So, but that's the thing.
But I hear that a lot.
Yeah,
I do hear that a lot. Yes.
Yeah. I'm definitely generalizing when it comes to this, but a lot of men don't feel like they matter, because if they are not providing in the way that society feels that they should be provided for, then you're not man enough. And then, like, even thinking about that is like the definition of what a man is. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay, so you think about this. This is a guy who is the person who can fix every car, who can fix everything that's ever broken. The person who can, the person who's making this amount of money, who is walking in to take charge of a room, he could do all this type of stuff, and he, all of these things that go as a characteristic of what a man is and what a man should do.
Right.
Nobody ever talks about how manly it is to be present in the lives of their children. Nobody talks about how manly it is to, read to their kids at night. Nobody talks about how manly it is for us to show up at practices, or to show up at events, or to cook for their kids. That's what it's like, especially what Black men are doing. Black men are showing up and doing all of these things. Black men are statistically more involved in the lives of their children than any other demographic.
Okay.
But the stereotype is we're lazy.
Yeah.
The stereotype is that we're not present. The stereotype is that we don't care. All of that is bullshit. And I'm sorry for cussing, but that's what it is.
I'm good. Look, you are who you are. That's why I wanted you to be on this podcast episode.
Yeah. And
so let's talk about some of the common mental health struggles among men, because you do host a support group as well, in addition to having your practice.
Yes.
How do those struggles present themselves?
So so it looks differently for different people. And I think a lot of times people don't recognize, like, when they hear depression, they think, oh, that's just sadness. No, depression shows up more as anger in men. And I bet y'all know a bunch of angry men.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's like, think about why they're angry. Think about the microaggressions that we as Black men deal with at work.
Yeah.
How much shit we got to eat so we won't feel like we're a threat. You know what I mean? And if it's just, this is just the way that I talk. Oh, you're being very threatening. I'm not being a threat. I'm just talking to you. You know, and I have to make myself smaller to make you feel safe. You know, or if I'm telling you that I have to show up in a certain way in order for me to be home, it's like, well, you just comply. It's just like, that's all it is. That's all you think it is. You know, as if I just listen and if I just comply, then everything will be okay. We see evidence that that's not true.
Right.
You know, but then think about also what burnout looks like. If I'm working I'm working 2 or 3 jobs to be sure that our ends are meeting, but you know, I'm not allowed to burn out. You know, and like that's the thing is like you don't see that. Yeah, okay, I'm working, you know, 12, 14 hours a day. Then I'm supposed to come home and I'm supposed to cut the grass. I'm supposed to prepare the meals. I'm supposed to do all of this. I'm supposed to show up. I'm supposed to have a smile on my face. But I'm not supposed to ever take time for myself.
Right.
I'm not supposed to ever, you know, be in a space where I can be vulnerable and say, hey, I need help.
Right.
You know,
let me ask you about that. Because in that situation scenario you just described, one can assume about someone who may be married coming home and how they have to show up. What are some things as women, as a spouse, the partner can do to make their mate feel better in those places, right? In that space, in that headspace.
I think one of those things is like, it's not just I think every partner needs to be able to listen to understand and not listen to respond.
Good point.
That's every partner. And the thing is like, neither one of you will know what's going on with the other unless y'all talk about it. You know, I'm not a mind reader, so I'm not going to be able to just like figure out what's going on with you unless you actually talk to me. And you're not a mind reader. You're not going to be able to figure out what's going on with me unless I talk to you. And that's one of those things that I think a lot of times we forget, that it's okay for us to communicate, but communication ain't the only key. It got to be comprehension as well. You have to be able to understand why I'm feeling this way. You have to understand. I have to be able to understand why you feel that way. You know, and I think a lot of times what each partner can do is like, hey, seems like you're having a tough time. I will take this on for a minute, you know, take some rest. And then when you're ready, come back. Or be big enough to say, hey, can I have like 10 to 15 minutes to myself? And then I come back and I help you out in any way that I can.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's one of those things that everybody forgets that they can do. Because let's be real. It's like, you know, they're like women are working just as many hours as we are. And then it's like, come on now. I don't expect you, if you're working just as many hours as I am, I don't expect you, hey, cook and clean and do all this type of stuff and take care of the kids and all this. That's no.
Right.
No.
Right.
It's just like, there's gonna be some times it's like, you know, you got to step up and be like, yo, I got you. Take some time. Then we'll come back and then, you know, we'll switch off. You know, that's what it is. And some days, you know, a relationship is not 50-50.
Right.
It's not. You know, some days it's gonna be 80-20. Some days it's gonna be, you know, 90-10. Some days it's gonna be 35-65. You know, but because it's like, it goes back to what you said, meeting each other where they are instead of meeting each other where they are instead of where you expect them to be. You know?
Yeah. And just, you know, you kind of went there in terms of all the things you're doing at work. And of course, you know, if you're dealing with that at work, then you're coming home and then having to deal with being the husband, being the father, right? And then you have the societal views of how you should be showing up at work and also at home. Right? How do you? It's a lot, and not to say that it's not a lot for women as well, because it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But women tend, we will oftentimes, especially when we get home, we may not show it at work, but we will let it all out when we get home. Right?
And you should be able to.
That's a safe place.
Yeah, you should be able to. Just like the men should be able to as well. And it's just like at the same time is we all take on so much stuff that we got to go along to get along with so many instances. And then when we get home it's like we take all of the brunt of what we deal with during the day, and we take it out on each other because we're there.
Right.
instead of actually taking that breath to or taking that time to actually decompress from the day. You know,
Right.
what are you doing to watch the day off? What are you
Right.
doing? What are you doing to relax before you actually engage? You know,
Mhm.
what are you doing to make that time for you? You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
because and it's like the thing is like I'm pouring from an empty cup. Well, you shouldn't be pouring anything. It's
Mhm.
your cup should be
Mhm.
overflowing so much that everybody else catches what's running off, not what you're trying to pour out.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and
So
so
the
and like,
communication is key,
hmm
particularly if you're dealing with a partner, you're at
hmm
home. So
hmm
let's talk about what are some of the early warning signs, Blaise, have you noticed that suggest men might be struggling in silence
uh-huh.
with
So
depression, anxiety, or just being overwhelmed? What are some of the things that you've noticed?
so it's a couple of things that you will see. Like, you might find that they're not engaging in some of the activities that they normally would like to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
if they would like go to like I don't know, like a game night, once a week, or once or twice a month, and they're not doing that anymore. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that could be a sign. Um if they're usually happy go lucky and you're noticing that they're a little bit more down than usual, if you're noticing that they're a little bit more irritable than what they usually are,
Mm-hmm.
that's a sign. If you notice that they are,
Mm-hmm.
snapping or doing a little bit more bite back, at you when they normally wouldn't do that, those are signs. If you notice that they're um, constantly worried about finances, or constantly worried about if they're doing enough, if they're, if their decisions that they're doing are going to affect how they're going to affect everybody,
Mm-hmm.
constantly overthinking about what should I do next? How should I do this next? You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
those
Mm-hmm.
are a few signs that you find that they are not sleeping like they
Mm-hmm.
normally would. If they're not eating, or if they're overeating,
Mm-hmm.
you know, those are definitely a few signs that show something might be going on.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, and again, I want to just share if you're joining us, you know someone who's been unable to get on via my Facebook business page, please have them join. Tell them to go ahead and get on via my YouTube channel, or if you see the my personal Facebook event post link, they can go on there because that link is public,
Mhm,
or my website as well.
mhm, mhm.
So, you kind of talked a little bit about this in terms of men showing their emotion via anger. It comes out,
Yeah.
in the form of anger.
Mhm.
Talk about the link between anger and unresolved emotional pain in men.
We going there, huh?
Yeah, and I'm tell you something, Blaze. I was home the last 10 days with my mom.
Mhm.
Home for me is Brooklyn. My dad died 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And my mom had two years ago. That's
Mhm,
it, two days ago, 2 years ago.
mhm, mhm.
And I learned some things about my dad that I did not know. And
Mhm.
when my mother shared some of this and about how he grew up and things like that, and
Yeah,
it having heard that,
yeah.
I had a better understanding of why he moved the way that he did,
Mhm, mhm,
right?
mhm.
And to your point earlier, speaking about, how you grow up and all
Yeah.
this other stuff, it
Mhm.
just, there are a lot of things that cause all of us to act the way
Yeah,
that we act. And a lot of it is our upbringing, cultural, all that other stuff.
absolutely.
But let's tap into this anger piece, because it is something that's prevalent, often associated with men,
Absolutely.
right? As the emotion that shows up
Mhm,
um, the most.
mhm.
If they're going to show any emotion, anger is one that we definitely see, right?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. That's one. But it's so easy to get to.
Say more.
It's so easy to get to. Anger is that surface level emotion.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like that's one of those things, is because like you think about, okay, somebody who grew up in with a traumatic background, whether it
Hmm.
be, they grew up and they grew up in the projects, and they're seeing, people shot and stabbed and killed, and seeing people fighting, and or grow up in an abusive household, and you're seeing your family members being beaten by partners, and on a consistent basis. You're seeing people
Hmm.
who are alcoholics in your family. You're seeing people who are drugs, who are addicted to substances in your family, and all of these things, and you see this constantly, right? You might be too young or too little to actually do something about it. You can't stop it, but you see it all the time. You know, and it's one of those things is just like, you know, I can't change that. Or you see somebody, you know, say you have a parent who was abusing substances, and you know, your friends see them out in public, and they come out and they embarrass you or do whatever, and it's like you can't do anything about it. And it's just like, or let's say you do get angry, but you can't get too angry because, you know, if you're angry this way, you're going to be the angry black man. And now you're angry because you can't be angry. You know, and then what is it? But a lot of those things aren't even anger. Sometimes it's embarrassment. Sometimes it's disappointment. Sometimes it's just one of these things where it's just like, I don't know what the feeling is, and I can't explain it to you because I don't know if I've ever experienced it. But I do have access to anger, though. And so that's what I'm going to show you.
Okay. And how does the unspoken emotional pain manifest into frustration, aggression, and then the shutdown?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's like I don't know how to explain what I'm really feeling. And if I say this to you, like, okay, I like to use myself in a lot of these examples when it comes to this type of stuff, because it's personal experiences, but it's also one of these things where I make it relatable. So my brother was killed 4 years ago, and I'm angry because I'm angry at the people who did it, but I'm also angry because I can't fix it. I can't make it better for my mom. I can't make it better for my grandma. I can't make it better for my nieces or my nephew or anybody who loved them. Something I got to eat. Something I got to deal with. Something I got to move through. But then you have people in your life who are supposed to be there for you. Like I have a homeboy who I trained with, and we will practice martial arts together, and he is a deacon of his church. And I'm sitting here and we're training together, and I'm crying my eyes out, and he starts preaching to me. While I appreciate the sentiment, that's not what I needed from him at the time. You know, and I sat there and I took it, and I because that's what it's like he was doing that for him. He wasn't doing that for me.
Right.
Because what
he
I
was
need,
feeling, he wanted to feel like he was helping you. And that was his way of doing that. Not what you needed, but that was, yeah.
What I needed was my homeboy, not the deacon. And I told him that later. So, but that's the thing. I have the emotional intelligence to be able to say, this is what I need. How many brothers have no idea what it is that they need because nobody's ever asked them what is it that they need? That's why we suffer in silence. Like we're not allowed to feel. We're not allowed to deal with that type of stuff. It's like nobody asks us if we're okay. Nobody asks us what is it that we need to actually feel safe. You know, so now we get it. Like we'll get it from like our homeboys and stuff. Like say if we go to the barbershop, you go to the barbershop a lot and you hear all of this stuff that people talk about. It's like everything is pretty much up for grabs in there. But a lot of times that's the only place that they do it. And then sometimes in those spaces, those guys are giving you horrible advice.
Yeah.
You know, because if you go to some places, it's like, you know, the old adage back in the day, like your uncles would tell you, you know how you get over one woman, get on top of another. Like, how's that helpful?
Yeah. Don't deal with the issue. Just go on to the next person.
Let's go on to the next one.
Yeah.
And like that, and that's why you also see people who abuse substances so much because they're trying to escape. They're trying to escape something that's going on, but at the same time, it's just like just because you're escaping it in that moment doesn't mean that the problem doesn't exist anymore. So we go back to it because I'm still trying to escape it instead of actually dealing with it. You
So
know?
let's go into the dealing with it.
Yeah.
So what as a therapist, what
Yeah.
is your advice to men who are struggling? What are some things they can do to help?
Some things that you can do to help. Like honestly, is like when you do have those conversations with your friends, like actually be open to those people because regardless of what you think, there are people in this world who care about you and who would much rather hear what you have to say than to see you struggle.
Hmm.
So it doesn't have to be a therapist per se.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a therapist to talk to. It could be your partner, it could be your homeboy, it could be your parent, it could be your
Hmm.
pastor. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? It could be someone that you feel comfortable enough to actually talk about what's going on with you. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And it's like there are several like groups out here for men um on social media where you can actually talk about what's going on with you and people will actually listen to you.
Hmm.
There's so many organizations out here who are trying to show up for men. But it's the thing about it is we won't go,
Mm.
you know? And it's like we won't go because again, we're afraid of how we're going to be perceived. But the reality is most of the men who are in this group or in these spaces are going through the exact same thing as you are.
Hmm.
I see that every time I host a men's group.
Yeah.
It's usually a recurring theme across the board
Hmm.
that everybody is dealing with.
Yeah, and I'm
And
an advocate for support groups because and that's one of the reasons I'm such a big advocate for support groups because it is oftentimes, and I did it with divorce care
yeah,
and all kinds of grief care.
yeah,
You realize you're not the only one suffering because a lot of times we feel like a lot of times it may feel like we're the only one suffering
absolutely.
at that particular point in time, but there are so many people who
Hmm.
are as well. I'm looking at some of these comments, and Vincent, hey, all of you who have joined. Vincent, I see your comment. Kimberly, my cousin, I see you. Thomas, Lytell, Jocelyn, hey. Um, Vincent said, then there are some who want to see you struggle. So he was talking
Mm.
about just
Ooh,
that piece.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe
That,
a reason why you don't want to talk to someone because
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, but a lot of times, a lot of times we know who our haters are though.
Mm.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's certain people who I know who are genuinely for me.
Right.
There are people who I know who are in my camp who really want to see me be successful, just like I
Hmm.
want to see them be successful. Now,
Hmm.
when I see those shady folks coming through, and it's like, let's say you start talking to them, and they start making it about them,
Hmm.
that's the person you don't want to be talking to.
Right.
You know,
Hmm.
and it's like, or you can tell when people are like, oh man, it ain't that bad.
Right.
What you crying for, man?
Hmm.
Man up, stop being a bitch and stop dealing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
And
playing into
yeah.
that same old reason why so many men don't open up,
Hmm.
right? When you
Hmm.
respond like that,
Hmm.
um, as well. We're going to talk about what
Yeah.
can our support system do, especially because a lot of times we can see when someone is struggling, when the person may not admit it
Yeah.
or may not see that they're struggling as well. But let's continue the conversation about men.
Absolutely.
How do we get men? What do they need to do? What are some ways you can get men to really just take the
Hmm.
bull by the horn and deal with what's
Hmm.
going on with them?
Well, I think a lot of it is just like I think it's getting. I love the fact that it's becoming more mainstream to actually talk about it. I think
Yes.
I seen something the other day with Kurt Franklin hosting some folks on,
Yes, I saw
and
that. That was good. That
that's
actually was very
beautiful.
good.
Like that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. I haven't watched all the way, but I've seen clips of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's and like even what Nick Cannon was doing when he had the show when he was doing the stuff with the therapist and everything like that. That's
Yeah.
a really good segue because it shows people that it's okay to start talking about it.
Right.
You see the the Just Heal Bro conferences and stuff that are going around.
Hmm.
Where brothers are actually talking about these things, and it's like there are so many people. There are some positive folks on social media who are actually doing the right things and showing how it's done the right way.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think a lot of times what we can't attend things if we don't know about them.
Right.
you know, and it's just like, and then you got to think about it also. It's just like there are places where, like, let's say if it's a rural area, they don't have access to programs where people can actually show up and do these types of things. You know, man. And it's so many things that it's we can't make change. We can't make changes in our lives if we don't know how to take those first steps to get there. And a lot of the stuff is just like coming in is just like, as all right, if I see you going through it, so it's like, instead of just like looking down, it's just like you see another brother go through, it's like, what's going on, bro? Just the head nod. Just acknowledge them there. It's like, I see you, black man. I see you, keep going. You know what I'm saying? It's like those, it's like it's like you have no idea how simple small things like that matter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, you know, we don't see that. And it's just like other ways, it's just like, if these things are offered in your community, go. Because a lot of the times these things are free. And people say, oh man, free is not, it's like, it's gonna be cheap. It's like, no. If I'm offering something for free, I don't do shit half-assed.
Right.
You're gonna get all of me.
Yeah.
You're gonna get all of me here. And it's just like, this is a way for you to like show up. Like we're doing a Black Father Summit August the 2nd.
Yes.
You know, like the Black Father Summit is a free event. We're bringing Black fathers together, not just Black fathers, but father figures, uncles, cousins, nephews, all of these types of things. If you have an impact on somebody in your life and you are seen as a father figure to somebody, this summit is for you. This is a free event. We're gonna be talking about not just our mental health, but our physical health too, because as Black men, we don't take care of ourselves like we should. So we're going to be doing free blood pressure screenings. We're going to be diabetes screenings there as well. Like, it's so many things. We're going to have workshops going on at the same time where we can learn about fatherhood, talk about taking care of yourself. You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it is, I can show this and showcase it and put it in everybody's face and all this type of stuff, but it ain't going to make a damn if you don't show up.
Yeah. And I love that. And I know Vincent was asking, where is it going to be? Vincent is going to be in North Carolina. Well, we're going to share some more information because Blaise does have a virtual support group that you can join. So I'm allowing him to share that towards the end. But as you said, Blaise, it's like there are things that are going on. Go. You gotta go. And I mean, if you go and just listen, I'd say just go. You may not feel comfortable speaking at first, but trust me, you go. I know, even with divorce care, and I went to a therapist. I did divorce care. I remember sitting in this space, and this is more so about support groups than anything else. But I remember sitting in that space and just hearing similar stories. Just did a lot for my psyche in terms of, okay, I'm not the only one going through this. Right.
Exactly.
And that just does so much in terms of your self-esteem, your emotion, your just everything.
Really does.
So men need to do this. The other thing that I'm seeing, and matter of fact, I think you were on, it was called the barbershop. You did a barbershop
therapy. Yeah.
Is that something that's starting to be more common, or barbershops doing that kind of stuff? Okay.
Yeah, and so what Jimmy Evans is doing some amazing things out here, and it's a couple of other folks who are doing it too. What Jimmy is like, he is, because he knows, like I said earlier, that a lot of people talk in the barbershops, they're doing these types of things, but he's trying to get barbers trauma informed. So when things do pop up, and somebody needs some extra help, he wants to be able to send them to the right place. He wants to be able to talk, you know what I mean? But he also wants to be able to talk to them in a way that needs to be, that they need to be talked to, and just like to help them work through some of their stuff. You know what I mean? And that's a beautiful thing. But then there's other programs like Black Men Build, and they meet in Durham and in Raleigh, monthly, about what to do in the community, how to build themselves up, how to do this type of stuff is all. Then you got other programs like Fathers Forever, helping men who are incarcerated, get access to their kids and how to do these programs and how to work through being a better father and how to do these things. But that's the thing. People don't know these programs exist.
Right. So we have to do better. We have to do better with advertising it and sharing it. And this is, it's funny, mental health awareness. So this will be 5 years of me doing this podcast. And, one of the things, and it started during the pandemic,
Mhm.
Because I wanted to find a way to, how can I help people
Mhm.
um, deal with the things that were going on at that time. And it just extended, again, me as a life coach,
Of
as a
course.
human resources professional, now doing executive and career coaching. But it's one of those things where I find, you know, if we can do more of these kind of conversations so people
Mhm.
know that there is help out there, right? We have to
Absolutely.
talk about it. We have to break the stigma
Mhm.
around therapy,
Mhm.
what it is and what it isn't,
Mhm.
as well. So the more that we could just talk openly like this and have sessions like this, I think it's important. So this is my small way of doing that. And I'm so glad I had you on
Yeah.
to talk about it. So one of the questions came up, and I know it was a conversation we're going to have as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
Is the poor, and my cousin put this in here. How would love to know how I, as a sister, family member, friend, or partner, can be a part of supporting someone's healing journey. So talk about that.
So the biggest way that you can do it is actually ask was, if they're okay. And then
Mhm.
a lot of times is you don't have to try to fix it for them. They're not asking you to fix it. Sometimes they're just
Mhm.
asking you to listen. And,
Right.
and like when they're going through it, it's just like, and they start talking, it's like, ask them. It's like, hey, are you looking for suggestions, or are you just listening? Are you just looking for a listening ear?
Mhm.
And let them be the director when it comes to that, because it's their story, it's not yours.
Right.
And it's just like, just show, and this, like, let them know. And it's like, you don't have to like, for instance, if somebody's really going through it, you know and you're like, hey, I'm here if you need me.
Mhm.
You don't have to keep reminding them. It's like, let them know just that one time, hey, my door is open whenever you're ready to talk.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm here.
Yeah.
But when they call, answer.
Yeah.
That's going to be super important, because it's like, I'm a parent. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. Sometimes they ain't gonna want to talk to me,
Mhm.
but they know my door
Mhm.
is open. My door is open when they're ready, though.
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
and it's encouraging that way. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing with everybody else. Is just like, but also recognize that you can't fix everything for everybody.
Right.
you know
Right.
that's one of the things that I had to learn is really tough. I want to save the world, Michelle. I can't save the entire world, but I can damn sure do my part. And if
Mhm.
I say one at a time, if I help one at a time, then I'm doing my part. you
Mhm.
know um
Mhm.
and I think that's one of those things too, is just like, yeah, my clients know that I'm there for them. My family also knows that I'm there for them. So do my friends. you know
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's just like, i'm also I'm also strong enough to be sure that I need it as well.
Yes.
And I lean on those people who I know that I can count on. And I ask them before I just start rambling, I ask them, hey, do you have the capacity to handle some of my stuff today?
Yeah.
Before I just start going into it.
Yeah. Establishing, so you hit on something that's very important. And I feel so blessed to have a strong support circle,
Mhm.
right? I think Vincent mentioned earlier just knowing who to trust and who you
Yep.
can't. But
Mhm.
just having, even if it's just one person, but someone
Mhm.
it's that psychological safety, right? Being
Mhm.
able to be able to just open
Yeah.
up and just share your heart
Mhm. Mhm.
with that person without
Mhm.
judgment,
Mhm.
right? But make sure you establish some kind of circle for yourself, some kind of support
Mhm.
network
Mhm.
for yourself. And
Yeah.
I found that so helpful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
No,
you can talk to everybody.
yeah. 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 I'm reading Vincent's comment down here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just like, brother, I'm sorry that you had to go through that destructive stage and people telling you to get over it. That's I was telling, like, we was talking before, like, that whole get over it and man up.
Hmm.
That's an outdated mentality.
Yeah,
It's an outdated mentality, and it's just like, it doesn't help anything.
right.
It doesn't, because what we're doing is, like, we're pushing it down, piling it up, pushing it down, piling it up, and pushing it down. And somebody's
Hmm.
gonna come out, they'll be like, hey, Blaise, how you doing? I'm like, get out my face before I slap the shit out you.
Like,
That's manning
I'm
up. That's
laughing
me
inside.
getting over.
Yeah, but
Right,
but then you're going to anger, right?
exactly,
You're going to the place of
exactly,
anger, right?
exactly, because it's
Right,
like 'cause I've pushed it down and I've been dealing with so much already. And it's
right,
just like I don't have the time to actually talk about it. It's just like I've never allowed myself to go through this stuff. I've never allowed myself to I never allowed myself to be vulnerable and open up,
right.
because that's what I've been told. Man up and get over it. Man up and get over it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like it don't work like that. If I actually
Yeah,
talk about what's going on with me and why I feel the way that I feel and what's going on with me, then yes, I'm going to feel a whole lot better. I don't have to man up. Or me actually talking about what's going on with me is me
mm-hmm.
manning up.
Mm-hmm.
Me being vulnerable is me manning up.
Mm-hmm.
Me talking about what's going on with me is me getting over it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna reframe it in that way. You're not gonna make me feel like ass for not talking about what's going on with me.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? So
right,
I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna reframe it, and I'm gonna use it the way that I need to use it because this is how I man up by talking
right,
about what's going on with me.
right, right. Breaking the stigma
Yeah.
around men's mental health. Um, Blaise, talk about what therapy is and what therapy isn't, in case people, because I think there's still some misconceptions about it as
Yes.
well, right? So talk about that.
As a therapist, I do not give advice.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my job. My
Mm-hmm.
job is not to give advice. My job is to help you work through what you need to work through. I'm going to ask you questions because most of the things that you need are inside of you already. I'm just helping you
Mm-hmm.
walk through that path.
Mm-hmm.
I'm helping you navigate. I'm helping you navigate the obstacles and everything that you have in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Some put there by others, some put there by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm using treatment modalities and hey, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of the word that goes with it. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm using all the tools in my toolbox to help you get to where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
not telling you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You make the decisions on your own. I can give you everything and every tactic and every tool that I have, but it's once you leave out those doors or once you
Mm-hmm.
close that screen, it's on you to decide if you're going to use them or not.
Yeah. And if you're really at I know there's a national crisis number. I think the number is still going on because I had heard
Yeah, I think
somebody
it's
was
not what
trying to
988.
decommission it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But if anybody's in a crisis, go get the support you need.
Yep.
Dial that number.
Not
I'm going to
988
place
is
it.
there.
It's 988, right? Okay.
988.
988. If you're in that stage, and if you missed the early part of this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
Blaise talked about that time where he was at that point, y'all, very
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, and he
Mm-hmm.
checked himself in. I mean, there may be times if you're at that point, get the
Mm-hmm.
support you need. You don't have to do this
Mm-hmm.
alone.
No, you do
Yeah.
not. You do
Yeah.
not.
And I see Jocelyn's good. Can you tell us about the virtual support group? Is there a certain number? Yes. So we will get into that, Jocelyn. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If there's one message you could give to men listening today who are fighting the invisible battle, what would it be?
I'm gonna say it just like I do on my own podcast.
Okay.
You are loved, you are valued, and you are dope as hell.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to deal with this stuff by yourself.
Yeah.
It's people who would much rather hear what you have to talk about and hear what you're going through than to go to your funeral or see you in a hospital or see you hurt.
Yeah.
Let them know what's
Yeah.
going on with you. They can't help it. They can't help if they don't know what's going on.
Right. Yeah. And speak about it. Don't hold it
Yeah.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about what you got going on, Blaise. So let's talk about the virtual, because a lot of my people who are on are not from this area.
Yeah,
So talk
yeah,
about your
yeah.
virtual. Talk about
Okay, so
virtual.
I do a virtual men's support group once or twice a month. I'm only doing it because it's Men's Mental Health Month this month. There's a whole lot of opportunities coming out, so I had to shut down a few things.
Right, right.
But the next men's support group that I have will be on July 12th, I believe, is that Thursday.
Okay.
It is open to any man, all men across the country. And is from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you go to my website at www.thedopeblacktherapists.com. You'll see the men's group up there, and they can register that way.
Yeah, and I'll post your information too, so people can get that. Yeah, and y'all, he's just I had you on a podcast last year, and we were just talking about mental health in general. And like I said, I've been following you ever since, and I just love your energy. I love the fact that you are so vulnerable and just, I mean, you just tell it like it is, right? But that's how, I mean, some of us need to hear that. You know, like it is, and not sugar it, right?
I mean, it's real.
Yeah,
it is real.
And give more information about where your summit's going to be held.
So the Black Father Summit is going to be on August 2nd at the Southeast Raleigh YMCA from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We will have workshops going on that day. Lunch will be provided. This is a free event. Blood pressure screenings, diabetes screenings, all those things will be there. So come on out for that. If you want to put in a proposal to present, where proposals will be open until, I believe, the 20th of July. If you want to donate, you are always welcome to donate as well. If you just want to show up, just come on through. We'd love to have you. We'd love for you to register so we know how much food to get. So, but yeah, that's what's going on with us August the 2nd.
Yeah, and I will post that. I'll post that information for that as well.
Thank you,
Blaise. Thank you. I have you in my virtual Rolodex, my electronic Rolodex. If I need you, and I appreciate you. I really do appreciate you. I'm going to put you in the green room. So if you can go back there. Oh, Vincent Brown said, "Well, you have jerk chicken." Vincent, you're in Brooklyn. You ain't even gonna be here. I mean, unless you planning on flying here, Vincent, to attend. But yeah, he asked, "Will you have jerk chicken?"
Yeah.
But bless you, Vincent. But I'm gonna put you in the virtual green room, and I'm gonna close out. Y'all, thank you to all of you who were able to join tonight's session in recognition of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. If you know someone who was unable to watch this episode live, know you can leverage the same links and watch it in replay. So I will share those links again. My next series, y'all, I'm calling Affairs of the Heart. So that's going to be the next series. And I'm going to bring back some topics that I've covered in the past, like grief care and caring for caregivers, divorce care. I'm also going to try to do a topic around dating at a specific age. So we'll talk about that just to bring some lighthearted topics into the mix. But yeah, Affairs of the Heart will be my next series. And just stay close to my Facebook page and my IG page for information around that. Until then, the next time, y'all, I just tell you, just subscribe to my page, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done that. Subscribe to my Facebook business page, which is www.facebook.com/mybesteveryday for just regular updates on the things that are going on. And if you need coaching, life, executive career coaching, send me an email, mbiggs.mybest@gmail.com. But until next time, be safe, y'all. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
Bye.